Hey guys, it's Tomato-da, and today I'm going to show you how I made this Miffy cane. The colors of the clay I used are white, a little bit of black, and a ton of green for the background. After making sure my clay is conditioned properly, I rolled it through my pasta machine on the thickest setting. Then I cut it roughly into 1.5-inch squares. Next, I layered them on top of each other, making sure there's as little air as possible in between each layer. When I'm satisfied with the thickness, I cut it into a cylinder shape. So as you can see, this is not a perfect cylinder or circular shape, but I'll be using my hands to roll it into a better shape anyways. During this process, my cane did become quite dusty with fibers and stuff, but it's not a huge deal when it comes to building canes. Using the backside of my tissue blade, I made some indentation lines to measure out where the center of the circle is. Then I used a sharp tool to outline Miffy's face. To make the mouth line straighter, I used the back of my blade to crisscross applesauce that shit. I also marked the top of the mouth and the bottom of the mouth so that I can make more accurate cuts. And here's a tip, check the backside of your cane to make sure that you are cutting straight down. If you cut crookedly, no worries. Because this is still like a solid chunk of white clay, you can just put it back together, try again, and pretend that it never happened. Never hesitate to make as many measurement marks as you need for accuracy. Now I'm cutting diagonally for the mouth. Then taking a thin sheet of black clay, I added that in between the white clays and sandwiched it together. Every time I touch black clay, I like to clean my fingers on a wet wipe so that the colors do not transfer, especially on the white. Now I cut the other diagonal of the mouth and added another thin sheet of black clay like I did before. I'm going to remove the excess by carefully cutting it off, making sure that I don't accidentally get black clay on any of the white parts here. Afterwards, I attach all the parts back onto the face, but because of the inclusion of the black clay, this white area here sticks out a bit, so I'm just going to simply cut off the excess into, a fitting shape, and it's all good. For the eyes, I used an appropriately sized drill bit to make some marks on the front of the face and like a guesstimation on the back of the face. Okay, so here, I'm realizing that Miffy's mouth might be too big, which means I am gonna have to shrink it. After measuring how much smaller I want the mouth to be, I'm gonna pray to God that this works out and make my cut. Here, I'm attaching back whatever solid chunks that I can salvage, so I don't have to start the whole white cylinder all over again. Then I'm going to fill in some of the missing spaces with new white clay. And look, I'm not perfect. Honestly, a lot of my time crafting is trying to fix my mistakes and trying to learn from those lessons. Now back to the eyes. Taking the drill bit, I'm gonna start drilling down. And just like cutting straight down, I also have trouble drilling straight down. So I try to look at it from all angles to make sure that my drill bit isn't crooked. This isn't a foolproof method, but it helps a tiny bit. And I like to use the guesstimated markings on the back to let me know how far off or how close I was to my goal. After that, I cut straight across the middle of both eyes at once. Taking the black clay, I'm rolling it into a rod that's the same exact size as the drill bit, and I'm gonna place it into the eye holes, making sure that the black does not touch or smudge on anything else. Then I attach the two pieces together, making sure everything is aligned, and when I'm done with that, I remove the excess black clay sticking out. Now I'm going to lightly roll her face around to even out the edges and move on to the ears. For the ears, I took 2 chunks of white cylinder and flattened them into an oval shape. After checking if the size of the ears are right, I reshaped one of the ends to be a bit rounder. And for the other end, I bent my blade and made a cut. And I'm gonna keep cutting a little bit at a time until I'm satisfied with the length of the ears. Before I attach them on, I now have to clean up the dusty portion where the ears are going to attach to. So as you can see, I am making very, very shallow cuts on the surface. The area did end up being a little bit angular, so I'm gonna roll it on a clean surface to smooth things out. Now I attach the ears to Miffy's face and make sure that it's secure. Taking a very long, thin sheet of black clay, I'm gonna wrap it around Miffy's face, making sure it's nice and snug. For the areas like the corners, I'll gently press into the angles using tools. Some areas are a little bit more tricky, so it takes more time. And I know in these videos it looks like I'm doing it all really quickly and easily, but it took me about like 3 to 5 minutes just to do the wrapping part. So don't be fooled by the editing. I am actually in real life struggling. Now it's time to wrap the entire thing with background clay. And just know, this is how I do it. If you guys have like a better way, go ahead and do that too. So I rolled the clay on the thickest setting of my pasta machine first, and then I started wrapping the round part of her face on the bottom in layers. I cut off the uneven ends straight across where the ears start. Then I made a big chunk of background color clay, and then I traced Miffy's ears around it using a sharp tool. Now I have to figure out how to cut out that shape. So don't hesitate to use whatever tool works for you. You can use a cookie cutter, a straw, and my personal favorite are aluminum cans, just because they're like thin, sharp, and can be bent as much as I want. And if I ruin it, I can just recycle that and get a new can. So here I thought I could slide the whole thing in at once. I know that sounds sexual, but it didn't quite work out. So I had no choice but to add it in sections. So after that, I continued to add more clay all around until I could fill up a circle. And as you can see, my cane right now is so fucking huge. I failed to calculate that the ears would extend the size of the cane. I was only thinking about the face. Wah wah. Now using a big enough round object, I traced it over using a sharp tool on the front and the back side. Then I started cutting off the excess, and as I'm cutting, I am continuously checking the back side as I go to make sure that it matches up. It's very important to try to have consistency throughout the cane. After cutting, I felt like this area was a little bit thin for my liking, so I added more layers of clay around the whole cane. Now that the block is done, it's time to reduce. When reducing, I am squeezing with even pressure all around the cane. I turn it around only in one direction as I go. And as I'm reducing, I realized that I am kind of fucked because of how big this cane ended up being. Usually for me, the larger the cane, the more susceptible it is to distortion, because my theory is that, you know, there's more movement going on when you're going from a super large scale to a super smaller scale. Normally my canes are half this size. Also, I have small hands and the bigger canes tire them out way quicker. So towards the end, I go into a like whatever, fuck it mode, which means I stop caring about squeezing as evenly. But the one good thing about larger canes is that you end up with more cane slices at once. When the cane starts getting longer, I start squeezing from the middle and work my way towards one end. Then I flip it around, start near the middle again, and work my way towards the end again. And let me tell you, I think I have plenty of cane making experience by now, but shit still goes wrong from time to time. Like, I've had this cane planned in my head for a while, and I even wrote the outline of how things should be going. And in theory, in my mind, there were no errors. But in practice, shit does pop up that you absolutely forgot to calculate. For me, it was the ears and how it makes the whole cane bigger. Anyways, I stopped my cane here because I am so over it. Before I cut, I do like to roll out the outside surface using a block of acrylic or glass or whatever that's smooth and flat. Let's take a looky-see. Super cute! Glad all that work ended up being worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!